Well, good morning again. Thank you so much for being here today. This is a service that I have been leading now for over 10 years. And I first experienced it when I was a student minister quite a few years ago in Massachusetts. And when I was observing it and participating in it as a student, I thought, man, if I ever get to be a grown-up minister, I want to bring this and share this with whatever congregation I am blessed to serve. I'm also grateful for those who are joining us on Zoom, and I hope that however those who are here or those who are journeying with us online, that you will always know that you are part of a community of love, compassion, and yes, forgiveness. Now, last Sunday evening marked the beginning of Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year. Rosh Hashanah is a time for celebrating the beginning of the year in the Jewish calendar, and it's marked by very meaningful rituals and practices, including the blowing of a ram's horn known as the shofar, and also enjoying wonderful and festive foods, including apples dipped in honey, which have become kind of a symbol for Rosh Hashanah. And the apples are dipped in honey to symbolize the hope for a sweet year ahead. Now, in addition to being the beginning of a new year, Rosh Hashanah is also the start of what I would say is the most reflective and penitential period in Judaism, known as the Days of Awe. The Days of Awe are a time to reflect on one's own brokenness, on the wrongs and transgressions that one has committed against others and against God. The 10 days culminate in the holiest day on the Jewish calendar, Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur this year begins this Tuesday night at sundown and ends 24 hours later at sundown on Wednesday. Now, Yom Kippur is most frequently translated as the Day of Atonement, and at its heart is a wonderful concept in the Jewish tradition, a word that one sees repeatedly in the Hebrew Bible, or as Christians call it, the Old Testament. And this concept is called teshuvah. And teshuvah literally means to turn one's life in a new direction. Yom Kippur is a day for seeking forgiveness and for making amends. It's interesting to note that in Judaism, God grants forgiveness for sins committed against God, such as, for example, maybe breaking one of the 10 commandments. But for sins against people, forgiveness must be sought from the person who has been harmed or injured. In other words, during the days of awe and on Yom Kippur itself, forgiveness and healing are not something we simply pray for. Rather, forgiveness is an action in which we acknowledge our wrongdoing, ask for forgiveness, and make amends through words and deeds. I thought the kids had that perfect. They really had that. They summed that up beautifully. I must say that when it comes to forgiveness, to forgiving and being forgiven, I think we Unitarian Universalists could learn a great deal from the Jewish tradition. You see, there's something that, as our reading indicated, there's something so powerful and transformative about recognizing, acknowledging, and acting on our need for forgiveness. Forgiveness opens a pathway to new life and to a heart that is no longer broken or burdened. The simple truth is that forgiveness is a doorway which through love and compassion can enter our lives and shine. But as Olivia reminded us during the time with the children, If only forgiving and being forgiven was easy. But it's not. It can be so very hard to journey through that doorway. That's why our monthly worship theme this month, which is courage, is so closely connected to forgiveness. To be human is to be broken at times, to be hurt, to sometimes hurt others, and to experience at times feelings of shame, regret, and even guilt. I know in my own life it can feel so much easier to try and avoid all that, to sweep those kinds of things under an emotional or maybe emotionless rug, rather than doing the work to heal my own wounds and those that I have caused. It takes courage to forgive and to seek forgiveness. It takes courage to heal that which is broken and to begin life anew. But we must find that courage if we are to live lives of joy and to journey down those pathways of beauty and holiness. At that first service I told you about when I first experienced this ritual, the minister that day, one of my mentors, told a little story about a young boy named Michael. One day, Michael was playing outside of his apartment building. I think he lived in New York City, when a couple of older kids started taunting him, and eventually they pushed him face first into a snowbank. Now, the push was not particularly physically injuring, but it was very, very hurtful for Michael, and he was hurt and angry on the inside. It was then that a kindly neighbor of his, a Mrs. Parker, who saw what had happened through her upstairs window, came outside to help Michael. She brought him inside, offered him hot cocoa, and made a big fuss over him. She could see the anger and pain that was on his face, and she offered him sympathy and compassion. And as Michael began to calm down, Mrs. Parker gave him some advice that he never forgot. She said, "Michael, you are angry at those boys. You're mad at them, and you have every right to be. What they did was wrong. But you must not let your anger or your feeling like you want to get back at them to take control of who you are, the good person that you are." And then she said, "Because this day in your life has other things for you. This day in your life has other things for you." And it was that simple advice, I think, that points both to the meaning and power of forgiveness. The anger, the shame, the wounds we all carry, the wounds we have received and those we have caused, those wounds can weigh us down like one of those stones. They can leave our hearts being so hard to open and to be open to those other things that Mrs. Parker spoke of. That's why I think those many who write on forgiveness remind us that forgiving someone or persons who have injured us isn't really about the person we're forgiving, at least not first and foremost. Forgiveness, rather, is about taking care of yourself. It's about helping to heal yourself. Listen to these words from the late Archbishop Desmond Tutu, who is a beautiful writer on forgiveness. He says, "When I talk of forgiveness, I mean the belief that you can come out on the other side a better person than the one being consumed by anger or hatred. Remaining in that state locks you into a place of victimhood, making you almost dependent on the person who has hurt you. If you can find it in yourself to forgive, then you are no longer chained to that person or to that wound. You can move on, and you can even help the perpetrator, the person who has hurt you, to become a better person also." And it's important to remember, and Archbishop Tutu certainly said this many times, forgiveness is not a substitute for justice. It doesn't erase the need for apology, redemption, and perhaps reparation. But righting a wrong and doing justice require that we begin finding a path away from anger, fear, and shame. Forgiveness is an invitation to turn our lives in a new and healthier direction, a direction that makes healing, justice, and reconciliation possible. So that's the invitation that I extend to all of you as we begin our ritual. I invite you to take this opportunity to forgive, to maybe begin to let go, and to open that door to healing and wholeness. I know it's not easy, and perhaps today will just be the first of many steps along your journey. Maybe all you are capable of right now is to acknowledge a wound you have received and the pain you are carrying. Maybe this ritual can be a moment when you can express the hope that someday you will be able to forgive and to heal. Or perhaps you need to be forgiven for a harm you have caused, but that is blocking you with shame and guilt. Wherever you are coming from and whatever you are carrying this day, I invite you to let this ritual be a new beginning, a beginning in which you will seek to heal that which is broken in your life. So here's how it's going to work. If you are so moved to participate in this ritual, I will invite you to go to exit the pews to the center aisle and go to the back of the sanctuary where you'll see two little stools with baskets of stones on them. When you get there, take a stone and then turn either this way or this way and come down the perimeter of the sanctuary. The movement is very similar to what we did with water communion. Form lines, come to the front, and drop your stone into the bowl, the same one that we pour our water for in water communion. Let the stone that you take, let it symbolize something in your life that needs forgiveness or that is broken and needs to be made whole. I invite you, as you make your way forward, hold that stone in your hand. Feel its shape and its weight. Then when you're ready, come forward to the bowl of water and let go of the stone. Let that letting go symbolize your need to let go of the pain and the woundedness, perhaps anger and shame that may be weighing you down this day. After you drop your stone, please go back down the center aisle and return to your seat. For those of you on Zoom, I hope that you will take the time. Scott's going to play some music while we do the ritual. Take the time to do some reflecting. If you have a stone nearby, by all means, hold it in your hand. Use this time to reflect on that in your life, those things in your life that need healing. And also, if you choose not to participate in the ritual, that's of course completely fine. And I just want to offer my gratitude for you witnessing this ritual with all of us. And one final note. Please allow yourself the freedom and the space to feel and express your emotions. We're not in a hurry, and I want you to take the time that you need. From my past experience, this ritual can, for some, be emotional. It can bring up feelings you may not have thought about or experienced in some time. If tears come, let them flow. This is a time for letting go, not holding back or holding in. I always remind the congregation I'm speaking to, this community, this religion, this faith is centered in love, not in maintaining a stiff upper lip. And now, as we begin our ritual, may the light of love and compassion guide you towards this place of forgiveness and hope. Let this ritual represent your readiness to turn, to begin anew, and to invite the power of forgiveness and healing into your life. On this blessed day, give yourself and the world the gift of transformation, forgiveness, and love. Let us begin. All of you who chose to share in our ritual. I also want to thank those who chose to witness and offer support as others came forward. The path to healing, the path to wholeness, the path to forgiveness runs through this congregation and through the love that we feel for one another.